Throughout Major League Baseball, it is Jackie Robinson Day. All players in the major leagues will be wearing number 42 in honor of the late, great Hall of Famer. Today here at Progressive Field, the Indians play host to the Chicago White Sox. The Tribe still looking for their first home win of the season. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. So already, just 7 games into the season, the Indians have been without Michael Brantley for 5 of those first 7, not expected to play again today. They've lost Yan Gomes for 6 to 8 weeks with a knee injury, and last night it looked like they were going to lose Carlos Carrasco for a significant amount of time as well.
Well, it's been a tough first week for the Cleveland Indians, and when you go back and you look at it, Yan Gomes, with the bases loaded, Rajai Davis bearing down, he's almost like a first baseman. He comes in, he takes the leg out, and ends up hurting his knee, so he is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. And then last night, the second hitter of the game, I mean, we thought Carlos Carrasco was down. We didn't know what was going to happen. The best news possibly came out of this. He is going to start as of right now on Monday, so that's very good news there. But Yan Gomes will be out for 6 to 8 weeks, and you know the Indians have to circle the wagons. They got to get tough, and they got to try to find a way to score the baseball, score some runs, and win a ball game.
It's hopeful that Michael Brantley will rejoin the starting lineup when the Indians go to Minnesota to open that series up on Friday. As for today, they've got to get the bats going. They've got to find a way to score some runs.
Their 4th straight left-hander they're going to face. But Trevor Bauer will be on the mound for the Indians today. And Trevor Bauer coming off a start where the Indians nearly had a no-hitter in that ball game. He struggled with his fastball control early in the ball game. But, boy, when he settled down, he was throwing everything for strikes. He ended up with 11 strikeouts. He threw the ball very, very well. He will be matched up against left-hander John Danks, who the Indians have had success against. Danks 5-11 in his career, an ERA of over 5. So one more left-hander, but it's time for the offense to step up and score.
All right, so it's the Indians and the White Sox putting the wraps on the first homestand of the year here at Progressive Field. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the long journey, an often difficult one for Jackie Robinson to get to the major leagues when we come back. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. 15th, 2015, marking the 68th anniversary of Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson's Major League Baseball debut. And as we pay tribute to him throughout Major League Baseball on this day, with more on the Hall of Famer, let's go down to Andre Knott.
Thank you, Matt. Jackie Robinson obviously changed baseball forever on this date back in 1947. But what he faced before that day is a whole complete another story.
Fans will never forget the sight of Jackie Robinson.
Jackie's story has been told many times.
Go.
But few know about the battle he faced years before breaking into the major leagues. In 1944,
They'll be wearing
while
the number
serving as a
42 throughout
lieutenant
Major League
in the
Baseball
US
today.
Army, Jackie was ordered to move to the back of a bus. He refused. After an altercation with the driver, Jackie was arrested. Racial tensions were running high, but Jackie was fearless, just like he was on the base paths.
Robinson drives a ground single into center field, hurrying for the plate on his daring steal.
And I fought because I knew it was not doomed to be a losing fight. It couldn't be a losing fight.
Armed with a pen and his belief in what was right, Jackie pled his case and was found not guilty. More than a decade before Rosa Parks became a symbol for equal rights, Jackie began his fight for fair play on and off the ball field.
Robinson, amorous singles and bats across the plate.
Jackie may be remembered for baseball, but his legacy represents so much more.
And I believe that the society can remain good only as long as we are willing to fight for it and to fight against whatever imperfections may exist.
All of Major League Baseball will celebrate Jackie Robinson today by wearing the number 42. And later on this year, the Indians will take care of Larry Doby, who went through the same process just a little bit later than Jackie, Matt.
Yeah, it's a good point, Andre. And Larry Doby is a favorite of ours. I got a chance to, I know you knew him well, I got a chance to meet him and interview him here in Cleveland many years ago. But you just can't understate the impact those two gentlemen had on the game of baseball and the impact they've had on generations and the waves of players that have come after them.
No question about it. Jackie Robinson, what he went through, the pioneer in doing that, he did it and got most of the publicity. But Larry Doby did it in the American League. He was the first pioneer here, and he was a Cleveland Indian, and rightfully so. This year he will have a statue here, and it's long overdue for Larry Doby.
Absolutely. It was an honor to be here when his number was retired, and then I had a chance to go to Cooperstown when he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and that was a wonderful experience as well. Well, here is Trevor Bauer taking the field along with the Tribe. He'll be on the hill today. He had an amazing start his first time out. It was a little odd. He had 5 walks, but he had 11 strikeouts, didn't allow a hit in 6 innings of work against the Houston Astros. Tribe in need of a really good start today, so they'll be leaning on Bauer against its White Sox ball club. Let's take a look at Chicago's starting 9 under manager Robin Ventura. The White Sox starting lineup presented by Toyota. Adam Eaton will lead it off. Then it's Melky Cabrera, followed by Jose Abreu, who homered last night. Adam LaRoche, Connor Gillespie, and Alexei Ramirez in the middle. J.B. Shuck, Giovanni Soto, and Micah Johnson rounded out.
And today's Northern Ohio Honda starting pitcher for the Indians will be Trevor Bauer. As you mentioned, Trevor, the only problem he had was fastball command in his last start. He was all over the place. He walked 2 in the first, 2 in the second, and then he finally settled in, but he had a great curveball, his slider, his changeup. It was all working. He was very good, and they'd like to see another start like that from Trevor. In his career, he does not have a win or a loss. He'll be making his 3rd start against the White Sox. So let's put some zeros on the board until the offense can get going. Let's check out the defense, brought to you by Chrysler. And for the Indians this afternoon, Sands gets the start, Aviles is in left field, Bourne is in center, Sands is in right. It'll be Chisenhall at third, Ramirez in short, Kipnis is at second, Santana at first, and Perez doing the catching.
All right, the umpires this afternoon. Vic Carapazza will be behind the plate. Larry Vanover, the crew chief, is at first. Ron Culpa at second. Brian Knight down at third. Well, it's a beautiful looking day. Sunshine, a few clouds overhead. A little cool, though. That wind appears to be coming out of the north, right in off the lake. That's going to keep us right around the 52 degrees at game time.
But coming into this homestand, if you said we're going to get all 5 in, there'll be no delays. We see sun every day. You take it,
Absolutely.
Don't you?
This time of year, can't really complain about the weather we've had on this homestand at all.
No question.
So Adam Eaton will step in for Chicago. White Sox winners of 3 in a row. They're within a game of 500. Indians begin the day 2-5, and the first pitch is a little bit up and away, ball 1. Eaton takes a strike. Trevor Bauer told Andre before the ball game that his first start of the year in Houston was almost exactly the antithesis of everything he did in spring training. He said in spring training he had great fastball command and he was really trying to work on the secondary stuff. He said in Houston my secondary stuff was great. I couldn't command my fastball.
That's funny because the fastball sets everything up, and he was very aggressive, as we mentioned many times in spring training. He went out there, he was throwing his fastball. He gave up a few hits, but very aggressive. But he's always been able to pitch because when he first came up, his fastball he couldn't spot. He couldn't locate. He'd always fall behind, but he always could throw the changeup and breaking ball for strikes when behind in the count.
Line to third and a great catch made by Lonnie Chisenhall. Terrific reaction by the Indians' third baseman. You could see right off the bat, Rick, he was moving toward the hole, and a good lunging catch by Chisenhall.
Well, he's way off the line, and you can see one step, and on his second step he has to reach up, and that ball goes into his glove. Hit hard, but he snags it.
Now Melky Cabrera. Swings to the first pitch, lines it towards center, and Michael Bourne will take care of that 2 away. All right, here are the keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture. For the Indians, it's pretty simple. Get the early lead. When they do, they win. Their 5 losses, they've had to play from behind, and they've been unable to have any success with that. And hit the ball. 3 hits last night, not going to get it done.
Pretty simple. You got to score runs to win.
Abreu spun out of the way on a fastball up and in from Bauer. Abreu homered last night. His only hit of the game. Bauer goes down and away, and it's 1-1. That's still a tried and true method that works. Up and in, low and away.
Well, it never hurts to go inside.
Breaking ball outside corner. He's ahead of the count.
But you also have to locate that next pitch. This is a good hitter. Yep.
Swing and a miss. Abreu can't help himself, and Bauer gets his first strikeout, retiring the White Sox 1-2-3. Now the Indians are coming to bat when we come back. now let's take a look at the Indians starting lineup today. It's presented by Progressive Insurance. Michael Bourne at the top, followed by Mike Aviles. Then Jason Kipnis, who will hit third. Carlos Santana cleanup. Then Jerry Sands fifth. Ryan Rayburn with good career success against John Danks. Lonnie Chisenhall, Roberto Perez, and Jose Ramirez rounded out. Danks, another guy, doesn't use much of a windup. He's essentially pitching out of the stretch, but he just sort of rocks into a semi-windup. Bourne slaps it foul, and the count 1-1.
You're right. You know, I don't remember him with that abbreviated windup last year. You know, it's just a little quick step and let's go.
Catches the outside corner.
You know, he'll throw the cutter, the slider, curveball, moves it in. Last year, he had a boatload of walks, third in the league in walks. He had 76. So you have to remain patient with him.
Well, and that's in stark contrast to a couple of years ago when he only had 27 walks.
Right.
So
he
what
went
happened?
I have no idea. He had 27 2 years ago and 74 last year in 193 and 2/3 innings. So you just want to make sure he gets into it. He had
right back to Danks, one away. A little soft liner, and the left-hander just stuck his glove out to snare it.
Well, you get a good look at it here. That ball got inside, in on the barrel of the bat, so it was a nice little soft liner. He could read it, that it jammed Michael Bourne, so he didn't get enough of it or hit it hard enough.
Mike Aviles. You know, we talk about the Indians being susceptible against left-handed pitchers. It's not just the left-handed hitters. I mean, you look at Mike here. Aviles is now 1 for 10 on the year against left-handed pitching.
Well, this is one thing you don't want to get in the Indians' heads, you know, facing left-handers. You know, it's just one of those things. It shouldn't be any different than facing a right-hander, but right now everybody's struggling to hit the baseball.
Period.
And what happens is you start panicking, and everybody tries to do more than they're capable of doing, I think. We witnessed it last year. It just, as we say many times, at the start of the year, everything gets magnified and blown out of proportion and panicking. And this isn't the only team. You look at the Washington Nationals and a bunch of other teams that are saying the same thing.
2 balls, 2 strikes to count on Aviles. You know, and that's, I guess, the funny thing about struggles in baseball is that if you go through struggles in any other time, you sort of take them with a grain of salt. But at the beginning of the season, everything is so magnified.
Yeah, because usually you have a base set up once you start struggling. Say, okay, you look at it like it's the course over the long haul. You know, the 162-game season. But everybody with high expectations expects it to be right out of the gate.
I mean, I heard somebody on the radio today talking about the Nationals. They said, oh, boy, the Washington Nationals, they're really struggling. Well, yeah, but it's 8 games. The old measuring stick has always been at least 40.
True.
40 games.
But you don't have patience. Nobody has patience for 40 games.
Want to know now. Want to know now. Right now. Tell me right now.
It's the way of the world.
The 1-1. Broke his bat. And Kipnis is retired by Micah Johnson. Indians go 1-2-3. No score after 1. Second inning here at Progressive Field. No score, and for Chicago, 4, 5, and 6 hitters coming up. Adam LaRoche, Connor Gillespie, and Alexei Ramirez. Trevor Bauer, 1-2-3 first inning with a strikeout. LaRoche last night went 1 for 3 with a run batted in. Good news for Trevor Bauer and the Tribe. He's come out showing really good command here at the outset. 8 out of 12 now for strikes. A little bit high, 2-1.
You know, it's funny because some pitchers, they go out into that bullpen and warm up before a game. They can come back in and feel they have great stuff and go out there and be all over the place. Or you go out there and you're all over the place and you're saying, boy, I don't know where the ball's going. And, you know, by the time game starts, it's all different. That's the way it was for Kluber, his last start against the Tigers. He went out and they felt he was all over the place and wild. He went out and settled in after that first inning.
Bauer walks LaRoche to start the second inning. Arcia in the driver's seat features Trevor Bauer, Tribe's starting pitcher here today. Only the second pitcher since 1914 to go 6 or less without allowing a hit and strike out 10 or more. The other was Bobby Witt, 1986.
Well, awfully close. The Indian staff came to a no-hitter. Would they go 8 1/3 innings?
Yeah. Spoiled by a Jed Lowry home run in the 9th. Gillespie 0 for 3 last night. And that smashed foul might have cracked his bat. He's headed back to the dugout.
Well, Live Indians baseball is back in this year with MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. You can stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Gillespie with a new piece of lumber. Last night, White Sox picked up their first road win of the year. Over the last couple of years, they've been dreadful away from home. Second lowest winning percentage in the major leagues since the start of the 2013 season. Swung out and missed. That's an overall record for Chicago of 60 wins and 106 losses.
Ouch. Yeah, I guess your goal, if you have one coming into the year, you'd like to play 500 on the road. If you can play 500 on the road, then you like to come home and take advantage of the friendly confines of your home field.
A 1-2 pitch. Well, last year that was the story of the Cleveland Indians. They played very well at home, but never really got much traction on the road.
Because it started, they were 9-20, I believe, at the start of the year on the road, and they could never recover. You know, they could play 500 the rest of the way, but they buried themselves early. Had a couple of tough West Coast trips.
Yeah.
We didn't win a game when we played San Francisco and the Angels.
Fouled on the right side. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
This year, interleague play will be National League East or Central. Stay right in the Central.
The 2-2. And a foul right back. Well, in the American League Central, Kansas City has yet to lose a game. They've won all 7. the only unbeaten team in baseball. Interesting that the only team that has one loss is in Detroit. So the top 2 records in the game in the Central. Swing and a miss, took a little something off, and Gillespie out in front. Second strikeout for Bauer. 1 gone here in the second.
Nice changeup from Trevor Bauer. He got him with the curveball to swing over strike 2. There's a good movement on the changeup going away. Second strikeout, first out of the inning. You know, this White Sox team, they will head to Detroit. They have an off day tomorrow, as do the Indians. And they'll open up a weekend series against the Tigers. And then we'll be in Minnesota. And then on to Chicago, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Here is Alexei Ramirez. And he takes an off-speed pitch for a strike outside corner. Ramirez was 0 for 3 last night.
Speaking of good news, how about the Carrasco news?
Yeah.
That is good news, huh? Supposed to make the start on Monday?
Yeah, when he left the field, you didn't think that was even a remote possibility. But he told me today before the ball game that the spot that he got hit on doesn't hurt. The other side of his jaw feels like a giant toothache.
That's what we saw last night. When he
saw
got hit on
holding,
the one side when they were driving him off the field. He was holding the other side of his jaw.
Which just tells you how violently his jaw must have shifted on impact. The 0-2. Oh.
Good pitch.
Wow. Right there, but just missing by maybe the width of a ball.
Well, take a look on our Nissan pitch tracker. It's going to be just off the plate. Does it come back enough? No, it's a little off the plate, but it's a good 0-2 pitch where if he swings at it, he wouldn't have been able to hit it or do anything with it.
Bauer trying to put him away here with a runner at first and 1 out. Swing and a miss at Trevor Bauer with back-to-back Ks here in the second inning.
Elevated the fastball nicely. He goes outside with the 0-2 pitch.
Well, this was last night. Second batter of the game.
Yeah, turns and hits the right side of his jaw, and the left side is hurting. But, boy, when that happened last night, scary situation. He remained down on the ground for 5 minutes at least. Look at it.
Ball hit him on the right side, but he said today that the left side is still really sore and tender.
I'll bet he had some kind of headache last night.
He said to me, he goes, even my ear hurts.
Well, that's great news because we've seen a lot of different ones. We were talking about it today. Willie Blair back in 1997, right here in this ballpark. Julio Franco hit the ball.
0-1 pitch. Popped him up. Shallow left. Nope, not even going to get to the grass. On the dirt, Lonnie Chisenhall has it. Leadoff walk, does no damage. Bottom of the second, no score.
Well, today's Northern Ohio starting pitcher for the Sox is going to be John Danks. He's made one start this year. 5 2/3 innings. He walked one, struck out one. In his career, 5-11 against the Indians.
Carlos Santana leading things off for Cleveland. He has been one of their better hitters against the Southpaws. He's gone 5 out of 11. And it's 2-0. Santana 0 for 3 in last night's game. Up high. 3 balls, no strikes. Santana looks at a strike. But it was no meatball down the middle, 0 away at the knees, perhaps. The 3-1. That one he liked, but it's a foul back and a full count.
Well, you get the count in your favor. You get a pitch to your liking. You hope you put it in play. He had a good swing, but fouled it back.
And a payoff pitch. Almost the exact same pitch. Couple of foul balls out of play. High pop foul out of play. First 12 o'clock start on the year here at Progressive Field. About a little bit of everything in this first series. 4 o'clock on opening day. Last night game. There's a 3-2 line, and is it caught?
Yeah, he got it.
Yes, it is.
He got it.
Micah Johnson with the shift on. The second baseman with a nice diving catch.
Had to go to his backhand side to make the play, and I thought it was going to get in there for a base hit. And then all of a sudden, he gets that glove right underneath and picks it up off the ground. Good play. Take a hit away from Carlos. This is a guy, that second baseman, the White Sox are very high on. He's a very tough kid. Can play the game. The key is to stay healthy.
Well, amen. Indians know that all too well. Jerry Sands getting an opportunity and trying to make the most of it. He's done a very nice job. High pop here. The center fielder, Adam Eaton, makes the grab. 2 away.
Okay, let's check out the defense brought to you by Chrysler for the Chicago White Sox. In left field will be Cabrera. Eaton is in center. Shuck is in right. It'll be Gillespie at third, Ramirez at short. Johnson is at second. Abreu at first with Soto doing the catching.
Here's Ryan Rayburn. Rayburn doubled in a run last night, the only run of the game for the Indians. Danks fires one in to even the count. There's Carlos Carrasco. So good to see him. He's still holding that left side, though. Going to be sore for a while, I'm sure, but he told me today, he said, yeah, they're just going to move me back, and he's anxious, I think, to get back out there and make his next start.
Well, he's smiling. That's good.
Yeah. The 1-2. Foul right back top of the screen.
Yeah, good pitch. In on the hands. Little cutter in.
Downstairs. Now, Melky Cabrera was visibly shaken at the time, and he said afterwards that he was very relieved to hear Carrasco was going to be okay. Now the 2-2. Swing and a miss. 6 up, 6 down for the Indians through 2. No score in Cleveland. No score as we go to the third. Still a lot of action down there at the corner. Right field here at Progressive Field, one of the newest additions to the ballpark. The renovations of the offseason really, I mean, we're only a handful of games into the season, first homestand of the year, but it's become the most popular spot in the ballpark. Giovanni Soto starting behind the dish tonight. Reportedly, Tyler Flowers is encased in a bathtub filled with ice right now. The catcher from last night, what do you have to block? 25 balls in the dirt?
25 balls that hit the dirt last night that he had to. And I'll tell you what, he had a pass ball last night that I would not have given to him. That didn't hit the dirt because he was, so far in front of it. But yeah, I can see where he got the day off today. He worked very hard last night.
Soto goes down swinging, and Trevor Bauer is firing strikes here today. 4 strikeouts for the right-hander.
Well, let's take a look at our Circle K strikeout. Another good fastball that he just rears back and throws it by him upstairs. So Bauer now 4 in the third inning, and actually just the 4 and the 8 hitters he's faced.
Micah Johnson, left-handed bat, takes a strike.
12 of the last 14 pitches for Trevor have been in the zone. So he's found it. He's got a nice rhythm working.
Down and in, 2 balls and a strike. And now, after the slider,
yes,
it's a 2-2 count.
Slider down and in. See how it just breaks down a little bit. Good slider.
Fouled back. Micah Johnson picked up his first major league hit in his debut. It came in Kansas City off Yordano Ventura. Actually had a hit in each of his first 3 games. Since then, he's 0 for his last 7. Upstairs, full count. And this is something that the White Sox obviously know about Johnson. He's a guy that will work the count. He's averaging almost 5 pitches per plate appearance this year.
That's hard to do when you're a young hitter.
Ends up working it for a walk. Second free pass issued by Bauer. Let's take a look at today's injury report, brought to you by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk. Jake Petrichka, Nate Jones for the White Sox, and Alex Rios hit by a pitch. And now he's on the 15-day DL for the unbeaten Royals.
Yeah, I was watching that game. He hit Minnesota in that last game they played there.
Johnson draws a throw. He's 0 for 1 so far and try to steal bases. Is it almost a foregone conclusion that opposing teams will try to run on Roberto Perez, if for no other reason than because he's not the starter?
I don't think so. It all depends on how that pitcher's going to hold him on. If he's very average or he's average to below average, they'll try and run on him. But only so many guys can. You know, you're not going to see like track meets set up. You have one out in the inning. You've got your leadoff man aboard. You know, a lot of these teams aren't built for running. You know, if the right guy gets on, yes, I'd say go ahead. They will challenge.
You know, a team like Kansas City is going to run a lot. But that's
they
the way
run
they're
on
built.
Everybody, though. That's part of their team structure. Very aggressive on the bases. They've led the league in stolen bases the last few years, so that's how they play the game. This White Sox team is not like that. They are a little more athletic this year than they were last year, and this is one guy that can do it, and they hope Johnson's another guy that can help. But they're not a big base running team, or a base stealing team, I should say.
And they're never going to be built as the old Go-Go Sox, just primarily because of the park they play in. It's a hitter's
home
paradise.
Run. They live off the long ball for the most part. They're a very aggressive team. They swing the bat a lot. You may want to start some runners to create holes because these guys swing a lot.
The 1-1, good pitch. You can see Eaton sort of giving up on it with the flinch, and it drops in for a strike.
Yeah, these guys don't know Bauer a lot, and this is his third start against him. His last start was right here on July 13th at Progressive Field. He went 6 2/3 innings, 8 hits. He walked 3, but he did strike out 10. It was an Indians win. He didn't have a decision in it. Those are the swings you like to see. Sort of running out, bailing, and just swinging at it.
Adam Eaton along with J.B. Shuck, a pair of Ohio natives in that starting lineup for Chicago today. Runner goes on the 1-2 pitch and a high pop to right. Jerry Sands drifting over in a right center to make the catch, and back to first goes Micah Johnson, 2 away.
Catch a game at the new two-story bar with our $13 district ticket, which is presented by Sports Time Ohio. The new bar, it's the best place in town to grab a cold one. And with the district ticket, your first drink is on us. Visit Indians.com/district ticket and get the details.
Melky Cabrera swung at the first pitch he saw in the first inning and fly it out to center. Broke the bat. Santana has the ball, and the inning is over. No runs, no hits, one man left. Middle of the third, no score. As you enjoy a cold one, to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. No score, bottom of the third, bottom third of the Indians lineup will be coming up. Lonnie Chisenhall, Roberto Perez, and Jose Ramirez. Fastball strike. And a line drive single to right field for Chisenhall. Lonnie did a terrific job last year when it came to batting against left-handed pitching.
He sure did.
Let's hope that success will continue this year. With more on the Tribe's woes against the Southpaws, let's go down to Andre Knott.
You know, Matt, talking to Tito Francona this morning, he goes, look, we knew the left-handed pitchers would give us problems at times coming into the season. He said, but look, we saw Keuchel and we've seen Price. He goes, they're tough no matter what hand they are. He goes, but we can't continue having a lack of success because we're going to see every lefty anybody has in America if we don't start hitting them. But he's not worried yet.
No, not worried. But, it's the hitters that have to do it. I mean, he can say whatever he wants, but the guys in the batter's box have to make the adjustments, and they have to do the hitting.
Bunt attempt by Roberto Perez is fouled back. The pitch. Perez again squares, bunts it right out in front of the plate. The catcher, Soto, goes down to second. Ball gets away. Chisenhall never saw it, but he'll stay right there at second base. So the Indians have 2 on with nobody out.
Well, that's probably going to go as a fielder's choice and a sacrifice, I guess, because the ball was right out in front of the plate. I don't know if Perez had to be doing that on his own or not, because there you'll see Chisenhall, he gets off, and Soto had an opportunity. He chooses to go to try and get the lead runner, but makes a bad throw. Ramirez tried to act like a first baseman and gets into center field. So that's a break for the Indians, and I wouldn't be surprised to see
an error charge to the catcher, Soto.
So that's a sacrifice error on Soto.
So 2 on, nobody out. And Jose Ramirez, the batter. Another guy who can handle the bat well. Wouldn't be shocked at all to see him bunting. He squares. Gets it down. It stays on the chalk. And Soto fires to first to get the out. 1 away. 2 in the scoring position for the Tribe.
Well, you knew he was going to bunt because he's one of the best at it when it comes to a sacrifice bunt. So that little mistake that they made earlier gives the Indians an opportunity now, second and third, 1 out, to take the lead.
White Sox bring the left side of the infield in, right side playing back, and a foul out of play by Bourne.
I want to send our condolences along to the Shaun White family, who was a wrestling coach out at Mayfield Heights out east. Our thoughts and prayers are with you.
Now the right side of the infield for Chicago comes in. And the 0-1 chop towards second. Johnson waits back on it. No play at home. The Indians will score and take the lead as Michael Bourne picks up his first RBI on the year. I think Micah Johnson wanted to come home, but Rick, that second bounce cost him any shot.
Well, no doubt. If you're not in all the way, you're playing halfway, it's got to be a one-hop smash to you. And they're going on contact, so Chisenhall comes in to score.
2 down and a runner at third. Mike Aviles, the batter, infield back now. In the dirt, and a nice pick by Soto. Otherwise, it's 2-0. So Chisenhall got it started with a solid line drive single to right field. First hit of the game. And the Indians turn it into the first run. And this goes back to something that we talked about so much last year about the Indians, and that is how important is your defense? Well, defensively, one slight miscue cost the White Sox a run here in the inning.
Right. I mean, it is the little things that when you give extra outs, extra bases, wild pitches. Wild pitches cost the Indians a few runs last night, if you remember. It's the little things. When you're not scoring, boy, you have to be just squeaky clean defensively. You know what I mean?
Squeaky clean.
Squeaky
I like it.
clean.
You haven't been squeaky clean since day one.
Well, I know that. But you have to tell everybody.
Mike Aviles sitting 3-0 with Jason Kipnis on deck. And he takes a strike.
It's all right, 3-0 count. That's not one you want to go after. He's still got sitting on a hitter's count, looking for a good pitch to his liking.
To right field, near the line, dropping, foul. So a full count now for Aviles as he heads back to home plate. The runner at third is Roberto Perez. Breeze still blowing in from right center field. Shot back out of play. Oh, nicely played. John Danks, pitch number 45 on the afternoon, and Aviles smacks that back out of
Danks. Danks is upset with himself after that pitch. You can see he had a little meeting of his own mind after he delivered that pitch. I don't know if it was location or if he didn't get it in quite enough.
Danks has thrown a lot of strikes here at the outset, but he ends up walking Aviles with 2 outs in the inning. And it will bring up Jason Kipnis. Kipnis, a broken bat ground out his first time up. Kipnis, a career .272 average against the White Sox. The Chicago area native has always performed well against the Southsiders.
Well, he goes into the South Side, and he loves that ballpark. He has from day one. See if he can get a 2-out base hit in his home park. Aviles looked like he was heading back before he even moved.
Well, the one thing you wonder about a guy like Aviles, who's been around, Danks has been around, he's probably got a pretty good read on when he's coming over and when he's going home.
Veterans, that have a little track record of each other. I know what you're saying.
Kipnis, close pitch, takes it, and it's 1-1.
But right now, with nobody in the count, you want to stay on first base with that hole between first and second for Kipnis if he gets a breaking ball from Danks, to where he might be able to find that hole. If you steal second, then it lets Abreu get off the base and takes that hole away.
Low again, 2-1.
Not that Danks is easy to run on because he looks pretty quick to home plate.
Jason sends a fly ball to left field. Back is Cabrera. Still going back on the track. Reaches out and makes the catch to end the inning. Boy, that ball nearly got beyond the reach of Cabrera. Indians get on the board, though. They lead it 1-0.
That's between the ages of 6 and 14. MVPs take part in exclusive events and receive cool gear to add to their collection.
Fourth inning, it's a 1-0 Indians lead. Jose Abreu, Adam LaRoche, Connor Gillespie due up for Chicago. And Bauer in with a strike. In the hole. And Abreu is aboard to start the fourth inning for Chicago with their first hit of the game.
Well, there's the big man going inside out. You can see that ball. That might have been a 15 hopper, but that was a good fastball thrown in. Going to tie him up. But look at what he does. He just goes the other way.
Not
more
bad,
hitters
though,
should try it.
For Trevor Bauer to go 9 no-hit innings to start the year.
And made a good pitch on the first hit.
Three-man shift right side of the infield for the Tribe. Lonnie Chisenhall stays over about halfway between, well, maybe not quite halfway between third and short. Adam LaRoche will walk his first time up. This is a play, though, that the Indians worked on in spring training. When you have the shift on and you've got three guys on the right side, Jose Ramirez has got to get to second base quickly on a ground ball to either Santana or Kipnis. He's got to be the pivot man for a possible double play.
Well, yes, you're right. A lot more work done when in the shifting position when you talk about taking infield practice and things like that. Yes.
You know, your traditional infield practice guys are standing where they normally stand.
Right, but fielding practice this year, they did a lot of extra work with that.
The shift has become such a normal practice in baseball now that
for everybody,
you got to practice taking throws from different positions where you're not used to. And Rick, it may be just a case of knowing what it takes to get to that spot.
That is true.
Swung out and miss.
You know, there's times where you're going to see like now, maybe Chisenhall will take the throw.
Right.
It's hit to Kipnis. Now that there's two strikes, and now they're talking out there on the infield. So communication is a big part of shifting when you go into it in a defensive mode.
The 2-2. Low and away, full count. Payoff pitch. Wow. What? Did I miss something? Ball 4. Maybe a little bit low. Yeah, I guess it was.
Yep. Had the plate.
First glance, I thought it was right down the middle, but just a shade below the kneecap. So LaRoche has walked twice. 3 walks issued by Bauer. And now 2 on nobody out for Connor Gillespie. Traditional defensive alignment now.
Yeah, Gillespie, a guy, he will hit it to left center and use much more of the field than a guy like Adam LaRoche. So the Sox trying to mount a challenge, a little base hit the other way and then a walk. They have first and second and nobody out.
Drill deep right, but foul.
Out in front of that one.
Down into the corner district, a little ricochet.
Boy, that ball stayed out middle of the plate.
Now the 0-2. And foul ball, and it came up and got a piece of Gillespie, too.
Well, being only the second start for Trevor Bauer this year, when he has had 0-2 counts on hitters, which he has had 19 times, hitters are 0 for 19. So he's been able to put them away and bury the hitter when he's been ahead in the count like that, which is the key to pitching. Get ahead, expand the zone, put them away.
He's got multiple weapons to attack with.
He sure does.
But Gillespie putting up a good fight here. Stays 0-2. Last year, a career year for Gillespie. Career highs in hits, doubles, triples, ribbies, runs scored. Fastball up high, but not close enough to entice Gillespie. One ball, two strikes. And now back to even. One of the reasons the Indians have had success against Chicago of late is because they pitched well against them. Chicago has only hit .216 as a team in their last 10 games against the Indians.
Well, yeah, you look at them and they got off to a slow start this year offensively. But coming into this ballgame, they're hitting only .238 as a team. They scored 22 runs. They don't walk a whole lot. They only, well, now they've drawn 11 walks on the season. One stolen base. They're a team, they like to swing the bats. They like to put it in play, and they are an aggressive team.
Strikes him out. Fastball up high that he couldn't get him to chase earlier in the at-bat. He gets him to go after it this time.
Isn't it funny? He worked hard to lay off a couple of pitches, but Bauer just still never gave in. He went in there with a good high fastball, and what happens? Gillespie gets himself out. Check it out on our Wendy slow motion cam. It's a high fastball, and it's letter high or shoulder height, and he could not hold up. So Bauer gets his fifth strikeout.
Now he's got Alexei Ramirez, who he struck out his first time up.
This is a guy that, if you remember, got off to such a great start last April.
Oh.
And it seemed like everything he was hitting was against the Indians.
Well, he lines one in the left here. Charging is Aviles. Coming around third, Abreu is going to be held. And the bases are loaded.
Yeah, he picked on a hanging breaking ball here from Trevor. It stayed up in the zone, and it was an easy pitch for him to go to left field with, but just hit a little too hard to try and score Abreu. So 2 hits in the inning, and watch the location. This pitch stayed up. A little spinner, but goes as a base hit. So now they have the bases loaded with one out and a chance to tie this ball game or take the lead.
Galion, Ohio's J.B. Shuck will be the batter. Shuck had a stint with the Tribe last year. Popped up on the infield his only time up here today. Fouled right back. Shuck had the game-winning pinch hit RBI single against Minnesota on Saturday. Popped him up again. Third baseman Lonnie Chisenhall, this time into foul ground. 2 down. Our stat of the game is brought to you by Buick. The Indians' bullpen has been busy of late. Last 2 games, they've logged what you would normally look for numbers from the starters.
That's true. So true.
.214 pitches, though, tells you they have worked a lot. Bauer trying to get out of a jam here. Giovanni Soto struck out his first time up. Takes a little bit outside ball 1. Swung and missed at a ball in the dirt. It's 1-1.
You see a lot of funky hacks off of Bauer. You know, when the high fastball, he mixes it up. That slider, I don't know if it's tough to pick up the spin on it or what. But you see some hitters take some really funky swings off him.
Fastball took off, 2-1. Yeah, remember Abreu back in the first inning when he struck out. He was about halfway through his swing and tried to stop to no avail.
There's one right there.
Just like that.
He took a bad swing at the first slider and a check swing at the high fastball. I don't know if they don't have a book on Bauer or they don't know, but you see a lot of hitters chase that pitch. You really, not many of them swing at to begin with.
Bases loaded, 2 out. Tribe leading 1-0 here in the 4th. 2-ball, 2-strike count. I almost wonder if that's maybe not that last one, but sometimes that 2-seamer's got that run that you don't pick up till it's too late, which is why you kind of get to see hitters start and then try to stop. He deals. Throws him on the outside corner. Bauer with his 6th strikeout of the afternoon. White Sox leave him loaded. 1-0 Tribe, middle of the 4th. The second annual Velasano Bike Ride for Cancer Research takes place July 17th through the 19th. There will be 6 different routes that start and finish in downtown Cleveland, including 1- and 2-day rides. Every dollar raised by Velosano participants benefits cancer research at Cleveland Clinic. Get involved by visiting velosano.org.
That's over the All-Star break, isn't it? Or close to it.
I think it's right after the All-Star break. It's when we're in Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah, it is. Right after the break.
Carlos Santana hit a line drive, but the second baseman, Micah Johnson, made a nice diving catch on the shortstop side of the bag, which is where he's located once again. Chicago with a 3-man shift on the left side of the infield for Santana.
Not too long ago did we see our first shift for a right-hander. If you remember, it was in Tampa with Joe Madden,
yeah.
Shelley Duncan, that I recall.
Oh, Santana rung up on a pitch that he didn't agree with. Second strikeout for John Danks, 1 away here in the 4th. Today's Levin player profile. Take a look at John Danks, 9 years with the White Sox. Already made 214 starts. And he is signed through next year. Hard to believe that 5-year contract seemed like he just signed, but.
Well, he did, but it was a few years ago.
It goes quickly.
It's one of those things. I think they've tried to move John Danks a couple of times, because that's a salary. He makes a lot of money that, they would like to at times put elsewhere.
Big curveball. And Jerry Sands takes. White Sox wanted a strike call, didn't get it, 1-1.
A couple years ago, Danks had the surgery, arm surgery, and had to miss some time.
That, to me, is the problem as any organization has to wrestle with. When you're going to sign a pitcher to a long-term contract, which is anything more than 3 years, it just seems like more times than not, you're going to miss a full season somewhere along the line.
Yeah. Nowadays, it certainly does seem that way. Even if you sign a 3-year deal, you got a chance of him missing half of that contract.
The 3-1 to Jerry Sands, and he pulled the string on him.
There's the changeup right there. You get into an aggressive count for a hitter, a young hitter like Sands, and he comes back and pulls the string. Makes a good pitch, and it's now 3-2.
Payoff. Chopped up the middle. That might get through. Backhanded by Johnson. Can't come up with it. So Sands is aboard with 1 out. Ball took a big hop and never really got through the infield. But Johnson knew he had to.
It's a do-or-die play.
Yeah, he had to come up with it.
You either come up with it being very aggressive on the dead run, on the hop. You got to short hop it. He caught an in-between hop, and his glove just never caught it if he was going to get Sands. Has to catch it cleanly, make a clean throw. He never fielded it. So it'll go as an infield single.
1 out base runner now for Ryan Rayburn. Danks narrowly misses, ball 1. Great clip of the game from last night. The only run scored by the Indians came on this RBI double by Ryan Rayburn. He takes, and it's 1-1. Hammered, left field. Back is Cabrera. He'll play it off the wall. Jerry Sands on his way to third. Rayburn's got to hurry. He dives headfirst. Safe. It's a double for Rayburn, and the Indians have runners at second and third with 1 out. looked like for the second day in a row, it was a changeup
Yes,
that
it
Rayburn
was.
got a hold of and able to hit it for extra bases.
Exactly right. He came with back-to-back changeups. This one he was able to reach, though, and something more that was middle of the plate, and he liked it, and he hit it down into left field. And Cabrera played this ball off the wall nicely. Made a strong throw into second base. But you'll see Rayburn goes in head first. He beats the tag. Second and third now for Rayburn, his third double. And the Indians are set up for another inning, and infield's going to be in.
Lonnie Chisenhall looks. It's just off the plate, ball one. Chisenhall singled to right in the third inning and scored the Indians' only run thus far. Infield in for Chicago. Good block at home by Soto. Second time that he's saved a run from his defensive spot. That's a good angle we just had from the third base side, showing where Ryan Rayburn is. If he takes off, he's got to run through a little traffic to get to third base with the infield in.
That's okay. You play a little. You want to run it a little deeper. If for a base hit, you can cut an angle, come around this way. Those infielders won't be in your way.
Drilled right field. That'll get down in the corner. Scoring is Sands. Here comes Rayburn. Chisenhall into second with a 2-run double. It's a 3-0 Indians lead. For Lonnie Chisenhall, his first extra base hit of the year, and RBI's number 2 and 3 of the season.
Well, 3 straight hits now for the Indians, and Chisenhall did a beautiful job of getting another ball. Both his hits pulled to right field. This looked like it might have been it was a straight fastball. He wanted it away. Didn't get it. This is going to be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. 2-run double for the Indians to increase their lead to 3-0. There you go. Base hit right there. 3 straight. Now you say add on. Second straight inning the Indians have scored.
Roberto Perez. Swing and a miss. Big swing. And Danks teased him with an off-speed pitch. Jerry Sands got it started with that infield single. Since then, back-to-back doubles and a couple of runs in. Perez in the hole, 0-2. Perez chased one, and he's out on 3 pitches. 2 away. That will bring up Jose Ramirez. Ryan Rayburn talks it over with David Murphy. Rayburn doubles off the wall and left here in the 4th inning, setting up the Tribe's 2-run outburst. Well, there's no denying that when Ramirez gets on base, he can make some things happen. Good speed, plays with a lot of energy. 1-1. There's a liner to third. It's caught by Gillespie.
Yeah, I thought it was in the air, but they said no.
He short-hopped it, but in any event, he retires Ramirez to end the inning. But 3 straight hits for the Tribe result in a pair of runs, and they lead it 3-0. by the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. 3-0 Tribe as we roll on to inning number 5. Micah Johnson will lead it off, the number 9 hitter, then top of the order for Chicago. Johnson, who walked his first time up, takes a strike. Swung on and missed. Little topper to the mound. Bauer low throw, but Santana digs it out, one away. Here's our AT&T UVerse rewind as we go back to last night. And take us through this relay play.
Well, you watch how far that Moss has to go to field this ball before he gets to the relay. It's well over 30 yards. And then the throw to Kipnis, and watch the throw that he has to make. About 95 feet, and a beautiful pick by Aviles to go over a backhand and make the tag. And I'll tell you, we were watching Eaton run. He had his head down all the way, so there was a lot of ground covered for the first relay throw. A nice pick by Kipnis and a nice pick by Aviles. 2 good throws. They get the out at third base.
The 0-1. Bounced to first, but foul. Just goes to show, too, you want that throw to hit the guy in the chest.
You'd love it to,
but sometimes you need a little help from your fielders.
Well, Kipnis did a good job with his feet getting it, because you could see, even though it was a low throw, he had his feet set to come back up and make a strong throw. And that's why his throw was probably short-hopped. He didn't have a chance to crow hop and get something on it. So he had to throw flat-footed, but Aviles helped him out.
This one playable for Santana, and what a job on the backhanded pick. 2 down. Somewhere Mike Hargrove is smiling.
He's in Tucson right now.
He was in camp early, trying to help Santana with a little first base fundamental footwork.
Nice backhanded pick. That's an in-between hop, but he kept his glove down nicely before he went up to catch this ball. Now get to first base, big man. Let's go. Hustle. Yeah, don't wait for the pitcher. Beat him to the base if you can. Good play.
2 away from Melky Cabrera, who is 0 for 2 on the day. And Bauer could use a quick 1-2-3 inning. Set him down 1-2-3 in the first, but since then he's been unable to retire the side quickly. Up and away, 2-0. Pop back up. We have the newly installed screens that cover the folks behind home plate. Those foul balls used to go right down into the seats. Three and 1 to count here on Melky Cabrera. Swings and pops it up. Bourne fighting the sun.
See how he's turning his body to keep it away from it. Nice job.
White Sox go 1-2-3. 3-0 Cleveland, middle of the 5th. In front, 3-0. Bunt, well put down by Bourne, and he's going to be aboard.
Attaboy.
Love that bunt. You get it by the pitcher, as you always say, and you've got a really good chance to beat it out.
Yeah, you force the second baseman or first baseman to make a play, or the pitcher to hustle over. And Bourne's been trying to lay down some bunts. Just hasn't been successful at it yet, but here's one right here. You see Danks falling off to the third base side. You force Johnson to come in and make a barehanded play and make a tough throw if he does field it to get you at first base. So there's an infield single. And keep working on it. Good weapon for Michael Bourne, especially leading off an inning.
Mike Aviles takes, it's a strike. Right back to Danks. Goes to second. There's one on the first. Double play. Our in-game recap brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. It was Michael Bourne who got the Tribe on the board first in the third inning. It was an RBI groundout that plated Lonnie Chisenhall, who had singled to start the inning with the Tribe's first hit. Then it was Lonnie in the fourth with a 2-run double into the right field corner. And that's been it so far. Jason Kipnis almost gave the Indians a couple more runs in the third. He hit a fly ball deep to left, and Melky Cabrera on the run. Made the catch, outstretched on the warning track. Shoots that one over top of the Indians' dugout and skipping into the crowd. Danks at 80 pitches on the day. White Sox have a pair up in their bullpen. Indians' bullpen is quiet. A little bit low. Lefty-righty combo up for Chicago.
Hector Noesi and Matt Albers.
Albers, a former Indian. The payoff pitch. And Kipnis draws a walk. Don't miss MLB Whip Around on Fox Sports 1 with highlights, analysis, and live look-ins from around the league. MLB Whip Around is on every weeknight at 7 Eastern on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Carlos Santana.
Got him.
And on the pickoff move, they throw it away, and into left field it goes, and safe at second base is Kipnis. So the White Sox are making things difficult for themselves here.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go as a stolen base because the throw by Abreu. Watch him. He throws it in the left field. Kipnis was going on first movement. He drops sidearm, and it goes to the backhanded side. Now, from that angle, it didn't look like that bad of a throw from Abreu.
I agree with you.
The way he attacked the ball. It's a little more difficult to tell. I don't know, but it looked like the throw was there and it beat him. He just didn't catch it. We'll see how they score it here. But another runner in scoring position for the Indians. Stolen base. Yes, it is.
First of the year for Kipnis. Santana pulls it foul. in the dirt, blocked nicely by Soto. So Kipnis in scoring position with 2 gone. Santana down on the count 1-2. Bouncing ball, that's in the hole, and it's through. And coming around third to score is Jason Kipnis. Carlos Santana delivers with a 2-out RBI single. His 6th run batted in on the year. And the Indians increase their lead to 4-0.
Oh, boy, those 2-out base hits, runners in scoring position are like gold. The stolen base now pays dividends for the Indians, even though it was a mistake by the White Sox. Another ball. Now, this time, he wasn't over on the left side of that infield, Matt. He was on the second base side, and that may be one reason why the ball got through. So they add on again. It's the 3rd straight inning they've been able to score off John Danks, and that's probably going to do it for him, because out of the White Sox dugout comes Robin Ventura.
He's going to go to the right-hander, Matt Albers, I believe. So Matt Albers will be coming on now for Chicago as Robin Ventura makes the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen. John Danks goes 4 2/3 innings. But the Indians hang 4 runs on him here so far this afternoon, and we've got a timeout. The Indians have a 4-0 lead with 1 on and 2 out here in the 5th inning. And a right-hander coming in for Chicago is Matt Albers, Texas native. Spent last year with the Astros, but only appeared in 8 games. He was bothered by shoulder problem last year. 2 years ago with the Indians, though, Rick, he was a pretty reliable guy coming out of the bullpen.
I was going to say he did a nice job for this bullpen here. Guy that would give you some innings when needed. He didn't go into that setup role or anything, but he's certainly valuable in getting outs when he had to.
Pitch inside.
Right now, he's trying to keep it a 4-0 ball game. 4 2/3 innings for John Danks. Gave up 6 hits, 4 runs to this point. He walked 2, struck out 3. And his problems continue against the Indians. The Indians have had success against him in the past. And something that they haven't done in this homestand, they're doing today, is playing from in front, getting the lead, and they've been able to add on. They've scored the last 3 innings. 1 in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, and 1 in the 5th.
Swing and a miss. Count 1-1. And a strike call as Sands falls behind in the count 1-2. In the air, right field, but slicing out of play. Sands with an infield single in the fourth to help lead to a couple of runs. Albers now set in the 1-2 pitch. Way outside, evens the count. Carlos Santana, the runner at first base, delivering a 2-out RBI hit here in the fifth. Slowly chopped towards third. Gillespie tries to go to the bare hand grab, can't come up with it. And for yet another time, the Indians get an infield hit.
You know, I really, in that situation, think that Gillespie had a little more time than he thought. He wanted to go with the bare hand. I think he had time to go to the glove. But it's all, you know, it's what's in your mind as a defender. He felt he had to go to the bare hand and make that do or die play there. And you can see it hits him in the heel of the hand. And he just doesn't catch it cleanly. It's awfully tough on the run. A lot of guys make that look like an easy play. It's not an easy play to try and catch a ball barehanded when you're on the dead run and then make a throw.
Seems like a lot of the guys that do it catch it in their fingers. They don't let it get in the palm of their hand.
They gave him an error. No way. Well, that'll be changed. But that's got to be a hit. It's a do-or-die play, for goodness sakes. But anyway, getting back to it, you're right. They do catch it in the fingers. They don't catch it deep in the hand, and they're able to get rid of it. But that's why I think with Sands going down the line, who's got average speed, he had an opportunity to maybe go in the glove and get it and then make the throw.
David Murphy pinch hitting for Ryan Rayburn, the DH, here in the fifth inning. Indians trying to blow it open with 2 on and 2 out. All these left-handed pitchers, Murphy hasn't seen a lot of action on this homestand. But he's
left-handers.
He's a career .303 hitter in this ballpark.
Well, they knew that going in, didn't they? That's why he was playing against the righty in Houston, getting all that playing time, knowing they were going to get the 4 straight lefties when they get back to Cleveland.
Robin Ventura in his 4th year at the helm in Chicago looks over his lineup card. 2-1 to Murphy, low and away. 3 balls and a strike. Lonnie Chisenhall waiting on deck. Slow chopper. Micah Johnson waits back on it. Throws him out, ends the inning. But Carlos Santana delivers with a 2-out RBI single here in the fifth, and the Indians have a 4-0 advantage. 4-0 Cleveland, 6th inning. And our T-Mobile game changer for today, Jackie Robinson. Broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball on this date, 1947. He was named Rookie of the Year. 2 years later, National League MVP. 6 times an All-Star and went into the Hall of Fame in 1962. And Jackie Robinson's number retired all across Major League Baseball, and MLB, the first league to retire a single number all across the league. Jose Abreu with a base hit back in the 4th inning, 1 for 2 on the day. Abreu, Adam LaRoche, Connor Gillespie for Chicago here in the 6th. Bauer with a 1-2-3 5th inning has set down 5 in a row. Got out of a bases loaded 1-out jam in the 4th. And a foul back. And that inning started when Abreu just punched a base hit through the right side of the infield. It was the first hit of the game for the White Sox.
Yeah, he muscled that ball into right field.
Struck him out looking. 7th K for Bauer.
Well, I'll tell you what, you talk about a little window shopping right here. Look at a good fastball away, outside corner. Has just a little comeback, and there it is, called third.
Let's get on to Andre Knott. Andre, you know, being around Bauer, nobody pays more attention to one's mechanics than number 47.
You're absolutely right. Even between innings this last inning, he was going through his delivery, and he keeps telling me, he goes, I have to repeat my delivery. It's not about the pitches that I throw. If I repeat my delivery, I can be a successful pitcher, and that's what he's done through these first 2 starts here in 2015.
He certainly has. He's been very good out of the chute. Giving up just 2 hits in almost 12 innings.
2-0 the count on LaRoche, who has walked twice already today. For whatever reason, every pitcher seems to have a guy once in a while that he just can't throw strikes to him. And that today it appears that guy for Trevor Bauer is Adam LaRoche. Finds the zone that time. It's 3-1. What's really frustrating, I'm sure, for a starter is when that guy is the number 9 hitter in the lineup.
Well, that happens. There's some pitchers that have problems with the lower part of the lineup. 3rd time that LaRoche has walked this afternoon.
Rick, time now for a Mazda game break. Let's send it down to the corner. Here's Al Pawlowski.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Rick. Let's head down to Atlanta, where the Marlins are taking on the Braves. Michael Morse sends this one out for his first home run of the season. Put Miami ahead 5-0. It's one of 4 home runs today combined. Right now, 5-2. They're in the 7th inning in Atlanta. Marlins in the lead, Matt.
All right, thanks, Al. Bauer delivers, and Gillespie rockets one to right field. That'll one-hop the wall. On his way to 3rd is LaRoche. Into 2nd is Gillespie. And now Chicago trying to mount a comeback with 2 men in scoring position and 1 gone here in the 6th.
Well, Gillespie got after it early on this pitch. He was not going to spot on the fastball, but he got it down and in into his wheelhouse, and he smokes it down into right field. One hops the wall. Gillespie is 3rd double of the year, 2nd and 3rd. Now 1 out for the Sox.
Alexei Ramirez singled into left field back in the 4th. 1 for 5 here in the series.
He's trying to leave, isn't he? He did on that swing.
He didn't leave anything in the bag. Guy who does have really some surprising power for as lanky as he is.
Yeah, he's wiry, but he's quick, he's strong.
Hard to think he was maybe skinnier at one time.
Well, we've watched him grow up pretty much. Getting up there in age now. "33 years old.
The 0-2. Bounce to third. Chisenhall backhanded pick. Fires to first. 2 down. White Sox get on the board as Adam LaRoche comes home, and Ramirez picks up his 5th RBI on the year. That's going to bring up J.B. Shuck. Scott Atchison getting loose now in the Indians bullpen. You know, you were saying about Alexei Ramirez already being 33 years old. It doesn't seem possible that this is already the 10th anniversary of the White Sox World Series championship.
Yeah, that's true. 2005.
Hit up the middle, and that's going to get through. J.B. Shuck delivers with a 2-out RBI single. And just like that, the White Sox have cut the Indians' lead in half at 4-2.
That ball went between the legs of Ron Kulpa out at second. He had to jump out of the way. Now, we've seen umpires drilled before, but there is a little, looked like a little changeup going away. And J.B. Shuck, he hits it right on the nose, and the umpire better watch out. He's jumping out of the way, and it goes between his legs. Look at that. Playing jump rope. So a 2-out base hit for the Sox.
Tell you, a guy could pull a groin muscle doing that.
Yes, he could. Well, they cut the lead in half. 4-2 game now.
Giovanni Soto has struck out twice in the game. .100 pitches on the day for Bauer. 63% of them have been strikes. He has struck out 7. He has walked 4. Two-strike pitch. Out of play to the right. Trevor Bauer went 6 innings in his season debut against Houston. Needs one more out to go 6 innings here today. He's given up his first 2 runs of the year after going 11 scoreless to start the season. Swing and a miss. He strikes him out to end the inning. 8 Ks in all for Bauer. White Sox get on the board. 4-2 Tribe, middle of the 6th. The Indians lead it. And before we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, let's take a look at this little ditty. Most batters faced before allowing a hit by a starter from the start of the season since 1974, only Hideo Nomo with a longer run than Trevor Bauer. Lonnie Chisenhall is 2 for 2 today. He has singled, doubled. He has scored a run, and he has driven in 2. And that stays foul up the third base side. Otherwise, Lonnie would have had another double.
Boy, oh boy. That would have been a thing of beauty.
Mike Pocto working with the guys at Stats Research to dig up those numbers about the guys who started the season without allowing a hit. Chisenhall rung up, took a called third. One away here in the 6th. Matt Young on that list. You remember Matt Young?
I sure do.
Threw the no-hitter against the Indians and
lost. Yeah, I do. Yeah, the left-hander from out in Seattle.
If I remember right, that was part of a doubleheader.
Yes, it was. When he was with the Red Sox.
And then Roger Clemens threw a 2-hitter in the nightcap.
Yeah, that was.
So imagine that. We got 2 hits and a doubleheader, but we split.
Yeah, think about that.
Roberto Perez taking a strike. The 0-1. Perez taking issue with Vic Carapazza as he's in the hole 0-2. Now the 2-strike delivery. And Perez has rung up back-to-back strikeouts here in the 6th.
Well, KeyBank Kids tickets start at just $10 for kids 12 and under with the purchase of an adult ticket. Kids tickets are located in the new family deck here at Progressive Field. Just log on to Indians.com/kids tickets today.
Jose Ramirez. Sacrifice bunt back in the 3rd and a ground out in the 4th. 4 hits and 21 trips on the year. A little bit low. And that's fouled out of play. Indians scored in the 3rd to grab the early lead. They added 2 in the 4th, 1 more in the 5th. It was 4-0 before Chicago got on the board here in the 6th inning. Terry Francona's club looking for its first home win on the year.
Well, it's only been the 2nd time they've had a lead all homestand.
Matt Albers strikes out the side here in the 6th inning. We'll head to the 7th, 4-2 Cleveland. to you by Kia. Visit mykiacleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. Well, the Indians will try to bridge the gap from the starter to the end of this game, and they'll start with Scott Atchison after Trevor Bauer went 6, giving up 2 runs on 4 hits. Atchison already on for the 5th time this year.
Yeah, 3 innings. He's walked 1, a strikeout, done a nice job as always.
He's an aggressive strike thrower, period. No other way to really describe him. Johnson walked in the 3rd, comebacker in the 5th. Johnson unhappy. He's down on the count 1-2. Just missed.
Tough one to take.
Yeah, and I think some fans are giving the umpire a little grief because they felt like, hey, Roberto Perez got rung up on that same pitch.
Well, the fans will always disagree.
He didn't give him the second one.
No, sirree. That one was on the outside. A backdoor breaking ball. He got the first one, not that one. You see, Johnson disagrees. Now, I don't know if they were both the same pitch because there's a look at this one, but that was a pretty good pitch right there. Comebacker. Left-handers have a tendency to give up on that little backdoor slider.
Adam Eaton looks at ball 1 outside. Foul back. The 1-1 off the mask of Perez. He says he's all right. I think for Chicago, Rick, so far this year, it's been a little bit of feast or famine with their offense. They've hit 301 with 15 runs scored in their last 3 games, which were all wins. But in their losses, they're hitting $183, and so far here today, just 4 hits in the game.
That's how it goes when it's all or nothing early. You know, it's tough to. And it seems like every year there's teams, and it's not the same ones. That if you score, you look great. When you don't, there's no in between. Pitching's ahead of the hitters at this time of the year.
Eaton rung up on a ball over the inside corner, and now he has a beef with the umpire. And that's double-digit strikeouts now for Indians pitching on the day.
This is a little comeback fastball on the inside part, so the exact opposite how he gets Johnson out with the backdoor slider. He goes to the indoor comebacker, and it has a corner on the inside part, and Adam Eaton didn't like that one.
Melky Cabrera's 0 for 3, and he takes a called strike.
Well, like you say, Atchison comes out here, and he's an aggressive strike thrower. He mixes everything, both parts of the plate, and he mixes it well.
Then the 0-2. Up and away. He tried to hold up, but he went around. Atchison strikes out the side here in the 7th inning. Brilliant display of aggressive pitching by Scott Atchison. 7th inning stretch. Tribe leads at 4-2. Stretch time brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. On top as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, and here's our Yellowwood bringing the lumber, and the Indians brought it back in the 4th inning. Back-to-back doubles. The first one by Rayburn set up the inning, put Tribe runners at 2nd and 3rd, and then Lonnie Chisenhall brought them both home with his 2-run double down into the right field corner.
Yes, indeed. That was back in the 4th. They had one in the 3rd, 2 in the 4th, 1 in the 5th. And they have a 4-2 lead.
And as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning, new pitcher for Chicago. No surprise here. They'll go for a left-hander, Dan Jennings. Jennings worked in last night's ball game, a scoreless inning with a couple of strikeouts. You'll face the top of the order here, Michael Bourn, Mike Aviles, and Jason Kipnis.
Yeah, the White Sox, they had 14 strikeouts in yesterday's ball game against Indians hitters.
And the Indians have returned the favor with 11 punch-outs against Chicago batters so far today. Michael Bourn reached on a bunt single in the 5th. Had an RBI ground out in the 3rd inning today. And it's 2-1. Bourn, being patient, works himself into a hitter's count here. Foul tip held on by Soto. Evens the count of 2-2. Grounded foul. And the 2-2 is low and away. And a full count for Michael Bourn. Payoff pitch from left-hander Dan Jennings. Smack toward right. And J.B. Shuck lost his foot and can't make the play. Bourn keeps on rolling. He'll head into second base with a stand-up 2-base hit.
Now, they played that one into a hit.
Yeah. I mean, official score's decision notwithstanding. I think it's a double, but he played that into a...
Right. It's going to be a double, but he played it into a double. He broke back. Watch his angle from here.
Well,
he breaks back. You see him go back, and now all of a sudden he's got to come in. And then he slipped when he was coming in.
Didn't take into account the wind, you think?
Well, sometimes it's that could be because the wind is blowing in. And you see he slips over there. And it's in daytime, it's always tough to pick the ball up. But still, there's a play that should be made. That's an error. Error 9.
Mike Aviles is 0 for 2. So the official scores decision denies Bourn a double. Tough room, huh?
Yeah. They switched the other one, though. Sands base hit. That was turned back into a hit.
And Aviles was squaring around, almost got hit. Indians trying to increase their lead at 4-2 here in the 7th now. Aviles trying to get Bourn to third.
Really important at this juncture in the game, boy. If you can add one here with a 2-run lead to make it 3.
Bunted foul.
However, you get the job done. Just get it done. Doesn't matter whether you bunt, you take him the other way. But you can see what Jennings is trying to do here as far as Mike Aviles when he's up at the plate. He doesn't want to give him anything over on the outside part of the plate where he can slap the other way. So he's trying to stay in, and that's why I think Aviles is trying to bunt, and he's doing it on his own. He's been around long enough to know what the job is. Get it done.
And he bunted that one foul the other way. So now it's 1-2, and he'll have to try to get him over by swinging it. Swung on and missed. Tell you what, that was a case where I'm thinking to myself, along with Mike Aviles, he doesn't want me to be able to punch a ball through the right side, so there's no way he's going to throw me anything away, right? So I'm looking in. What does he do? He throws it away.
With 2 strikes, you don't look in and away. You just look for the baseball. You know what I mean? You don't. You just try and make contact. If you can reach it, just put it in play. And right there, that was not a good at bat for Mike.
Jason Kipnis walked and scored after stealing a base in the 5th inning. Takes a little low, ball 1. One and one. Had a pitch right there. Kipnis fouls it right back. So he falls behind now, 1-2. Bourne in scoring position with 1 out here in the 7th. And Kipnis strikes out, 2 away. Back-to-back Ks for left-hander Dan Jennings. Time for another Mazda game break. Here's Al.
Hey, Matt, let's head to Fenway Park in Boston, where the Nationals taking on the Red Sox again. And again, some early runs. Top of the 1st inning, and Ryan Zimmerman a triple to put the Nats ahead 2-0. It's now 3-2 Washington. They're in the top of the 3rd inning. Matt?
All right, thanks, Al. Carlos Santana with a 2-out RBI single in the 5th inning.
Yeah, they scored 3 of their 4 runs with 2 outs today. This would have been a good one to add on to, though.
To first. Oh, what a diving stop by Abreu, and he'll get up.
Wow.
And taking himself to the bag. Abreu saves a big run for Chicago with an excellent diving stop at first base. 7 complete. Tribe in front, 4-2.
presented by authority of the Cleveland Indians and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians.
(4-2) Indians lead the White Sox. 8th inning. Scott Atchison worked a 1-2-3 7th, striking out the side. And he's going to stay in for the 8th. Jose Abreu to lead it off.
Made the great play to end the inning to save a run is what he did. And it's always nice to see this guy coming in a situation, 2-run ball game where he's going to be leading off.
Swing and a miss. Atchison may only be on to face Abreu with back-to-back left-handers next.
Probably right.
Zipchinski is up in the Tribe pen, as is Brian Shaw. 2 balls and a strike. And Abreu takes another called strike. It's 2-2. Shot at the first, a diving backhand stopped by Santana.
Touche, my friend.
He said, what you do to us, we do to you.
Well, it was Abreu who took a base hit away from Santana. And you know what? Santana says, there you go. Back at you, my friend. The only thing that cost Santana an RBI and the Indians. But this is a leadoff single. And you know what? There you go. Good play.
All right, so Atchison gets the 4 batters that he faces in the ball game here today. He will exit. We've got a timeout. The left-hander Mark Zipchinski is coming on when we come back. Well, the first basemen have robbed each other.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Here's Santana, and Abreu takes it and takes an RBI and a base hit away from him. The very next hitter, he comes up to lead off, and Santana says, anything you can do, I can do better. Well, it was a good play on both sides. Both players made it. They both made the plays on each other, and there was a little smile going across the bag. Did you see it?
Robbing Carlos to pay Jose. Swing and a miss by Adam LaRoche, who has walked all 3 times today. Last time he walked, he scored a run for Chicago. Mark Zipchinski on for the 4th time this year. Little tap off the end of the bat foul. It's 0-2. in the dirt. A ball and 2 strikes. Off day tomorrow for the Indians, and then it's on the road to battle the Central Division. Indians will go to Minnesota for 3, Chicago for 3, Detroit for 3. The count stays a ball and 2 strikes.
Look
Whoa!
out.
Bat goes down the first base side.
Look out, Darryl Boston.
LaRoche is a strikeout victim. 12th strikeout of the game for Cleveland pitching.
That's a 95.7 foot throw with the bat. Let's see if we can get that on our box. I know one thing, the first base coach had to move. That was right in his way.
Gordon Beckham was announced as a pinch hitter for Connor Gillespie, so Terry Francona is going to go to his bullpen. Zepchinski, which was his specialty a year ago, faces one batter. Gets his man. His day is done. We've got a timeout. Cleveland on top 4-2. Well, the Cavaliers wrap up their regular season tonight at the Q against the Washington Wizards. Coverage begins with Cavaliers Live at 7:30. Jeff Phelps, Campy Russell. Tip-off at 8 on Fox Sports Ohio with Fred and AC calling all the action. Tommy Bowe, G Coach, they'll be courtside as usual, giving knucks to the players before the tip-off.
Absolutely. Let's play 2 today, boys. They are.
Brian Shaw on for the 4th time this year. He's facing Gordon Beckham, pinch hitter, with 2 outs and the bases empty. Way outside, ball 1.
Yeah, Beckham was originally a Chicago White Sox, traded to the Angels last year, now back again with the White Sox.
Low and away, 2-0. Shaw's behind, 3 balls, no strikes.
Yeah, not what you want to do. You want to force him to put the ball in play. 2-run lead. You don't want to walk and bring the tying run to the plate.
There's a strike. It's 3-1. Alexei Ramirez is in the on-deck circle. Popped him up. Shallow right center. That's going to drop, though. And so Beckham is aboard in the tying run to the plate here with Alexei Ramirez.
Well, download MLB's free ballpark app to unlock special offers, including merchandise discounts. The app also lets fans purchase tickets, transfer tickets to friends, and more. Visit Indians.com/ballpark app.
Ramirez, an RBI ground out his last trip. He has singled and struck out today. Then he singles one into center field. Beckham stops at second. So back-to-back singles yielded by Shaw. And up comes JB Shuck, excuse me.
This pitch, let's see what it is. It looks like a breaking ball. It's elevated. That's the last base hit that he got off Bauer. It was a breaking ball. It was up. And here you go, a 2-out single. So first and second, out comes Mickey Callaway to talk to Shaw.
All right, MLB on Fox Sports 1 returns with back-to-back AL East showdowns Saturday as the Orioles take on the Red Sox, followed by the Yankees squaring off against the Rays. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on America's home for baseball every Saturday, Fox Sports 1, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Cody Allen, the Indians closer, is up getting loose just in case. Shuck 1 for 3, RBI single with 2 outs in the 6th inning. Shaw gets ahead with a fastball for a strike after the visit from Mickey Callaway. Outside corner. Just shaved it, and it's 0-2. Ugh. Now the 0-2. Chop towards third. Chisenhall will take it to himself to the bag, and the inning is over. No runs, 2 hits, 2 men left. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th, 4-2 Cleveland.
As we promised you earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Honor the anniversary of his historic debut and to continue the unified league-wide recognition of Jackie Robinson Day. We're going out of the bottom of the 8th inning. For the Indians, 5, 6, and 7 due up. Zach Putnam, one-time Indian, will be on the hill. New third baseman, Gordon Beckham. Jerry Sands, David Murphy, Lonnie Chisenhall due up for the Tribe. Sands 2 for 3, couple of singles and a run scored. And a strike called. I guess I didn't realize that many people watch the Jerry Springer show, but obviously there are many that have watched it.
Well, it all started on this homestand when he had 2 huge hits in a ball game, and actually this is only the second time. He was the one that gave him the first lead in the homestand and the only lead up until today.
Yeah.
You know, when he had a 3-2 lead going into the top half of the 7th inning. And then after that, it was today when the Indians took a 1-0 lead in the 3rd. They were able to stretch it to 4-0. Chicago closed to 4-2, and that's where we stand.
Now the 2-1. Even up.
But he had a chance to become a real hero in that game if the Indians could have held on to win that game 3-2. They didn't do it.
But then he came back later and tied it, right?
He came back and tied it at 5, correct.
2-run hit, 5-5.
He sure did.
And the 2-2. Sands goes down swinging, one away. In-game box score today brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers. Well, for the Indians, Lonnie Chisenhall, a couple of hits, including a 2-run double.
Yeah, 3 of the 4 runs for the Indians, scoring with 2 outs. Santana's RBI single. 2-run double by Chisenhall.
David Murphy grounded out his only time up. This is the first year Zach Putnam has made an opening day roster. Second year with the White Sox. Low and called a strike. That's down out of the strike zone. 3 balls, 1 strike. Murphy slicing it out of play. Putnam was originally a 5th-round pick by the Tribe back in 2008. Out of the University of Michigan. Made his big league debut with the Tribe back in 2011. He went to Colorado for Kevin Slowey.
pulled it fair. And just beyond the bag, there was Abreu. And there are 2 down. Our play of the game is brought to you by Pat O'Brien. Lonnie Chisenhall roping that double down into the right field corner. Right on cue, driving in a couple of runs after Ryan Rayburn had doubled to put 2 men into scoring position. That's our play of the game brought to you by Pat O'Brien. And now here is Lonnie, who has 2 hits on the afternoon. Lifts one toward left. Long run for Cabrera. And he makes the catch just inside the line. The Indians go in order. And we'll go to the 9th. 4-2 Cleveland. Let's take a look back at our keys to the game brought to you by Wayside Furniture.
There you go. Play from in front. So far, it's been a good combination for the Indians this year. Get the lead early. They hold on. They need 3 more outs to do that. The offense, hitters 4 through 7, 6 hits, and the 3 ribbies. It's pretty simple, isn't it, when you look at it that way?
Yeah.
And things work out?
It's a
simple
game.
Well,
you throw the ball.
Yeah.
You catch the ball. You hit the ball. Well, I mean, look, last year, Rick, this was something that they did with great frequency. When they scored first, they seemed to play better defense. They pitched better, and they won a lot of games that way.
Yeah.
When they didn't.
Every team does that, though. When you score first, they have a little more success. Sometimes it's tough to come from behind, especially when you're struggling offensively like they have been. But 3 more outs, and everybody will feel a lot better with an off day tomorrow getting this win on the homestand.
Giovanni Soto leading off takes a strike. Oh, that's Emilio Bonifacio.
Yes, it is.
Who's been called on the
Good
pinch
call.
It's the Jackie Robinson day sometimes has everybody a little.
Well,
everybody's wearing
right.
number
You see
42. Well, who is
42.
that guy? You look down.
Well, yeah, you have to know mannerisms.
Just missing 2-1. Now the 2-1. A little bit low, 3 balls and a strike. And a fastball at 95 miles an hour. Runs account full.
Bonifacio just trying to get on base, and that's his job up there. He wasn't going to swing, and he's going to try and help the umpire out and jump to first base, but it is in there. So now a full count.
Payoff pitch. And he just spoiled it.
Yeah, that's about all you could do with that pitch.
And that's low. Tying run to the plate. Stay tuned for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. It's coming up next here on Sports Time Ohio. Cody Allen's first appearance at home was a nightmare. He walked the first two batters in the ninth inning against Detroit. And it went downhill from there. Micah Johnson looks at ball one outside.
Yeah, you come in, and these guys know that. The first hit of your face is always important. You don't want to give up. But, Shaw came in. He gave up a couple of hits, fell behind. But with Cody Allen, you don't want to walk the first guy. Bring the tying run to the plate.
To left field, moving over Mike Aviles near the line into foul territory, and he just ran out of room.
See how that ball sliced? That wind's it's pushing it that way with the left-hander hit it. Normally that ball is an out. Wind blowing in from right field to the third base seats, and you could see he thought he had a beat on it. And next thing you know, that ball is in the seats. I thought he was going to catch it.
If he would have caught that, he'd be missing an appendage.
Well, yes, without the slice and the wind blowing it into the seats. Yeah, you can cheat a little bit today as an outfielder.
1-1 on Micah Johnson.
Look out.
It's fouled over toward the Indians' dugout. Just over 11,000 here today on a very chilly afternoon. Lots of sunshine, but that air cool blowing in off the lake. Cody Allen ready. He deals. And it's
hit him.
Did it hit him? Got him on the foot.
Yes, it did.
So a walk and a hit batter. And now the White Sox have their first two on in the ninth.
Check the back foot here. It looked like it was a breaking ball. Yeah, that curve ball, and it gets him right on the arch, or the almost like the shoestrings. And it skipped back, so it caught him on the foot, and he's going to take first base. So a start here. Frank Cohen wants to come out and talk to home plate umpire Vic Carapazza.
He's going to ask for help. But it did appear on the replay that it did catch him on the foot.
Yeah, back foot. It was a breaking ball. He didn't move his foot. It looked like it went off the top. So they're going to review this and take a look and see it. This is going to be a tough one to see. Could you tell if it hit the top of it?
It looked the like first angle we had. It did look like it caught the foot.
See, when he didn't move it, I thought it hit it. But they see there's Cody's leg. It's in view. I couldn't see that one.
This is the angle.
Yeah, because it deflected it. You see it pushed it to the right?
Yeah.
That's what made me think it hit the top of his shoe, or the shoestrings, and it went to the right.
I think if it would have hit the dirt, you would have seen some dirt fly up.
That's true. I thought it did on that second shot. With the first one, Cody's leg got in the way. We couldn't see it. So they will review that. It's worth a review, absolutely.
The only other possible explanation is, did the ball hit beyond his foot?
But like you said, that would be dirt, wouldn't it?
I would have thought you'd have seen maybe
see something, at least something fly up. I agree with that. Well, that's a quick decision. He's at first base. That ball, they decided it did. It deflected off him, and I think that's what made that ball go right, was the top of his foot. So,
all right,
on the
so
field stands.
2 on, nobody out, and Adam Eaton, the batter. He's 0 for 4 today, and hitting a .121 on the year. So he's,
you know that. They're going out giving their bunt signs right now. It's going to be time to try and move them over.
And you've got Melky Cabrera on deck, so that makes a lot of sense in this situation with Jose Abreu to follow him. Indians pinch in at the corners. Eaton squares, bunts it foul.
Chicago this year, they have yet to record a sacrifice bunt.
The 0-1, again he squares. Wow. Just missed outside. Take another look here on the 0-1, just off the outside corner.
It had good movement on it going away.
Fouled back to the screen, so
high fastball.
He didn't really get a good square around on that either.
Well, that's what you try to do, man. You try and throw that fastball up here so they pop it up in the air. It's a tougher pitch to get down. So now with 2 strikes, I don't think they're going to try and put it down again unless they really have confidence in this guy's bunting abilities.
Cody Allen could use a strikeout right here.
Well, he's capable. And
he
he
did
was
square.
Squaring around, right. Well, this guy, he was a National Leaguer, came over from the Diamondbacks, so I know bunting was a good part of his game. He could be doing that on his own as well, feeling like he can get it done. Bonifacio at second has average speed, so you don't have to make a perfect bunt unless Allen's going to charge and try and go to third.
He squares, bunts it foul, and he's out of there.
There's your punch out.
1 away.
You don't see that a whole lot anymore, Matt, in the American League, where a guy will go out there and try and bunt 3 straight times, but it'll go down as a strikeout. And 3 foul balls for Adam Eaton. That ball is up there, too. Another high pitch, tough to get down, and he's bunted it foul. So a big out for Allen and the Indians here.
Melky Cabrera 0 for 4 on the afternoon. And a strike called over the outside edge. Cabrera just 1 for 8 in the series. But he's a guy that has terrific ability at the plate. There's the 1-1. Up and away. 2 balls and a strike. Indians trying to hold on to a 4-2 lead here in the ninth. Chicago with 2 on and 1 out. Cody Allen's 20th pitch of the inning. And that's outside. The 3-1. Out of play and a full count. Jose Abreu waiting on deck. How about a double play ball?
Boy, I'll second that.
The 3-2. Liner, and it's caught on the short hop. 1, 2. No! They called him safe at first. Almost a spectacular double play to end it. My goodness.
Oh, boy. I mean, that was a beautiful backhand by Ramirez. That ball was scorched. Backhand, he got it over to Kipnis. Kipnis back to first base, and it looked like Cabrera did beat it out. Nice. That would have been a way to turn it and end it. Yeah, he was there, top of the bag. And actually, he went to the back side of the base. A lot of times you want to hit the front side. It's a little bit quicker, but that was awfully close.
So 2 down here in the ninth. And now the go-ahead run at the plate in the form of Jose Abreu, who is 1 for 4 in the ball game. Bonifacio is at third, tying run Melky Cabrera at first. And he waves at a ball low and away. One ball, one strike. Four runs, 7 hits, no errors, 6 left for the Indians. 2 runs, 6 hits, 2 errors, 8 stranded for Chicago. And the 1-1 to Abreu. Bounced in front of the plate and nicely blocked by Roberto Perez.
Well, that's a nice stop there because you keep that guy at first base and don't let him get to second where he gets himself into scoring position. Boy, a nice job of just keeping that ball, that curveball down in the dirt.
And again, Cody throws his breaking ball spiked, much like Zach McAllister last night, who had trouble bouncing a lot of those curves and way in front of the plate. Here's Cody now, setting. And the 2-1. Good fastball, threw it by him. And the White Sox are down to their last strike. Here's the set and the 2-2. Swing and a miss. He struck him out and the ball game is over. Cody Allen walks the tightrope, makes it to the other side. He strikes out a pair, notches his second save of the year, makes a winner out of Trevor Bauer, who goes to 2-0. And the Indians split the series with Chicago, get their first home win of the season as they go to 3-5 on the year. The loss drops the White Sox to 3-5 and ends their brief 3-game win streak. The losing pitcher for Chicago is John Danks. He falls to 0-2 on the year. Big win for the Indians after the year here at Progressive